In college, I bought myself a boyfriend. The deal was that he would stay with me, and I'd cover his family's medical bills. This proud, brilliant scholarship kid swallowed his pride and stayed with me for 4 years. Then, my family went bankrupt. When I broke up with him, he was ice cold. Not a word of protest. Years later, I was bussing tables in a karaoke bar, drowning in debt, and he was a tech millionaire, dating our class homecoming queen. He asked me, "Do you regret it?" "No," I said. "But I do," he replied. I never thought I'd run into Leonardo again, especially like this. As I set down the fruit platter, I kept my head down, terrified he'd recognize me. Camila, the homecoming queen, sat beside him. They looked perfect together. A real power couple. "Excuse me," Leonardo called out. "Could you cut the oranges?" With my back to him, I sliced the oranges into thin wedges. A long time ago, when I loved oranges, Leonardo always cut them for me. He was meticulous about it, each slice perfectly uniform. Back then, I thought it was a sign of affection. Later, I realized it was just a habit. He could have been thinking about anything while cutting those oranges. Anything but me. Years felt like a lifetime. Somehow, the conversation drifted to college romances. Someone said, "I heard Leonardo had a girlfriend all through college." I froze. Leonardo hummed in agreement.
Wow.
"For years? That's your entire college experience?" Leonardo didn't respond. The guy, sensing the awkwardness, pressed on. "Must be pretty unforgettable, right?" A heavy silence filled the air. Finally, Leonardo let out a soft laugh. "Not really. He was just being polite." Camila chimed in, her voice smooth as silk. "We went to the same school. It was, well, let's say it was tough on him. If it weren't for his ex, we would have been together a long time ago." "Of course, Camila. You're a celebrity. No ex can compare to a star." The atmosphere lightened. I pulled my cap lower, desperate to escape. The fruit knife slipped, nicking my finger. I hissed, drawing attention. "What was that? Can't even cut fruit properly?"
Camila complained. "I'm so sorry."
"I'll get a fresh platter," I mumbled, grabbing the dish and making a dash for it. "Wait." Leonardo's voice cut through the air, sharp and clear. "Turn around." My feet were rooted to the spot. 1 second, 2 seconds. My manager appeared, saving me.
"So sorry about that."
"She's new and still learning. The fruit platter is on the house." She winked at me. "Go get a new one quick." I escaped. "Be more careful next time," my manager told me. But it's okay. Everyone starts somewhere. Just know that if there's a complaint, you won't get paid tonight. "Thank you," I breathed. "No problem. Be extra careful with that VIP room. They're all important guests, especially the young, handsome one in the middle. He owns some fancy tech company. Someone we can't afford to offend. I'm kind of scared. Could you take the oranges in for me?"
"Sure."
I let out a sigh of relief. If there was anyone in the world Leonardo had every right to be offended by, it was me. I was the ex he so easily dismissed. I remember freshman year. Leonardo stood out in the crowd of new students, his faded clothes a stark contrast to everyone else. He was undeniably poor and undeniably handsome. I loved the cool, quiet tone of his voice, the way his eyelids lowered when he looked at me. Leonardo desperately needed money. Some connected kid had snagged the scholarship he deserved. So one evening after class, I boldly grabbed his hand. "Leonardo, I like you.
Go out with me."
I'm pretty loaded. We can share my allowance. Or, if that's not enough, I'll pay you for a kiss." He refused, of course. But back then, my life was easy. I didn't understand rejection. The more he pushed me away, the harder I pursued him, until his grandfather, the man who raised him, fell critically ill. Without hesitation, I covered the medical bills. Leonardo finally gave in. I foolishly thought I had done him a huge favor. Much later, I realized I got what I wanted, but at a terrible cost to him. Even after we started dating, Leonardo still worked every day. He barely touched my money, but things only got worse. Rumors spread around campus. They said he was selling himself for money. People looked at him differently, whispering cruel nicknames, oblivious. I'd hold his hand and say, "Don't mind them. They're just jealous." I lived in my ivory tower, completely unaware that Leonardo was fighting a battle all alone. Senior year, my family went bankrupt. I didn't tell Leonardo. I simply called him and said, "Let's break up." "Why?" he asked. "I'm bored." "Okay." And that was it. I imagined he felt relieved. Finally free. That same day, I tossed my SIM card, deleted my social media, and boarded a train to another city, ready to work and pay off my family's debt. I didn't return until 3 months ago. Leonardo seemed to be thriving. He had always been brilliant, the kind of genius who made everyone else in our department look average. Just 4 years after graduation, he was already a tech entrepreneur, featured in business magazines. Camila, our class homecoming queen, had started her acting career in her junior year. I never imagined they'd end up together. Good for them, I thought, pressing a hand to my chest to ease the sudden ache. At 4 a.m., my shift ended. I was the last to leave. My coworkers, assuming everyone had already gone, had turned off the lights and shut down the elevators. I jabbed the elevator button, hoping it would come back to life. Call someone? Leonardo's voice startled me. Stiffly, I called a coworker. The elevator whirred back to life. Leonardo and I stood in the confined space. "You guys work this late?" he asked, his tone neutral. "We can't leave until all the guests are gone." "Must pay well, huh?" "It's okay." I stared at the floor, my cap hiding my face. Leonardo, seemingly not recognizing me, made small talk and then checked his watch. "This elevator is slow. My girlfriend is probably waiting. She's pretty clingy." That's when I realized he was talking about Camila. "And you? Working this late? Doesn't your boyfriend pick you up?" "I live nearby." The elevator doors opened. I bolted out. Leonardo, calm just moments before, suddenly exploded. "Running away again? Where do you think you're going?" Maya disappearing without a trace. "Do you think it's funny?" Leonardo closed the distance between us, his steps firm and deliberate. He was still the boy I remembered, but the boyish softness had been replaced by a sharp, controlled maturity. "Deleted your social media, disconnected your phone. Even your professors couldn't find you. You're quite the magician, Maya." Slowly, I raised my head and met his gaze. "You must have used your connections, right?" "My family went bankrupt. My father's still caught in legal battles. He hasn't paid off all the debt yet. Why didn't you tell me back then?" I was speechless. "Too proud, Miss Evans?"
No.
Before I could finish, Camilo appeared.
Oh my God, Maya.
"It really is you." She was even more stunning than in college, every hair perfectly in place. "Long time no see. Everyone's been looking for you. Why haven't we heard from you in 4 years?" I was down south. "No wonder," Camila said, eyeing my clothes with surprise. "Maya, isn't that the jacket you bought in junior year? It's practically falling apart. Why are you still wearing it?" I used to throw out clothes after one season. Her question was a clear jab, but I felt nothing.
It's still fine.
"Still wearable." Camila nodded knowingly. "Are you having a hard time? You should have said something. Old friends can help each other out." She pulled out a card.
Take this.
"You don't have to pay me back." "Thanks, but I don't need it." I looked at her, then at Leonardo, and gave a faint smile. "I'm getting married soon. Be sure to come." The words hung in the air, leaving Leonardo visibly shaken. The karaoke bar was just a side job. I had a full-time job too. On Monday, a new client arrived at the office. My coworkers were whispering, "I heard this guy is a genius. He created this software to find someone."
Who?
"His ex, I think." My stomach turned. A bad feeling crept in. Did he find hers? No idea. The software isn't finished yet, but investors are pouring money into it. Huge potential. That's why our boss wants to partner with him. I gathered the necessary documents. Leonardo's voice drifted from the meeting room. "I need to think about the partnership." I opened the door and placed the files on the table. Leonardo's eyes locked onto mine. "What are you doing here?" "Working," I replied. This was my main job. My boss looked curious. "Maya, you know Mr. Leonardo?" I hesitated, then said, "We've met." "Just met," Leonardo added, his voice tight with anger. I couldn't understand why he was so angry. Wasn't he the one who walked away without a second thought?
He pointed at me.
"Mr. Lee, I'll sign the contract on one condition. Maya Evans becomes my personal assistant." My boss agreed immediately, not even giving me a chance to object. They spent the entire day in meetings. In the evening, I grabbed my bag, ready to leave. Leonardo blocked my path. "Where do you think you're going?" "You haven't dismissed me, Mr. Leonardo. But I can't stay late today. I have something to do." "What is it?" "I have to make deliveries." Leonardo stared at me in disbelief. I used to be the kind of girl who wouldn't even touch takeout. During all 4 years of college, Leonardo worked as a delivery driver. After classes, his dinner was often just the free meal provided by the delivery company. Once, I went to see him. He was crammed into a tiny room with other drivers, eating rice from a styrofoam container. "Leonardo, how can you eat that? It's not hygienic." His expression tightened. "Does it matter if it's hygienic or not? Come on, let's get some steak." I dragged him to a fancy steakhouse where the average meal cost over $70. He stood outside for a long time, silently taking off his delivery uniform. After my own fall from grace, I finally understood how he felt that day. Just like today, it started to snow. The ground was slippery. I fell, spilling the food. I called the customer to apologize, but he just yelled at me. I don't want excuses. Late is late. My scraped palms stung in the cold, but I couldn't stop apologizing. Suddenly, Leonardo appeared, riding my bike. "Don't hide your hands," he said, his voice hoarse, his eyes rimmed red. "I need to deliver this first. Get in the car. I'll take you." The customer lived on the ground floor. When I handed him the food, he muttered, "Seriously? Driving a Porsche to deliver food?" I had another delivery waiting. "Don't," Leonardo said. "I have to. I haven't earned much today. Then, tonight, I'll buy it."
What?
A notification popped up on my phone. He placed an order and assigned it to me. "I'll buy your time for tonight." His words hung in the air, heavy with a weight I didn't know how to handle. Leonardo looked at me with a determination that unsettled me. He was no longer the shy, reserved boy from college. Now, he was a man who knew exactly what he wanted, and it seemed he was determined to make me the center of his plans. I hesitated for a moment before murmuring, "That's not necessary. I'm used to handling things on my own." "I know you are. But this time, let me help," he replied, his voice firm but carrying something deeper, almost concern. That night, he drove me home after I insisted on making one more delivery. The silence during the ride was nearly unbearable, yet somehow, his presence was comforting. When I finally parked my bike, he watched as I stored away the little I had earned that day. He didn't say a word, but the look in his eyes spoke volumes. In the following days, things began to change. As Leonardo's new personal assistant, I started accompanying him to meetings and projects. To my surprise, he insisted I genuinely contribute. He didn't want just an assistant for paperwork. He wanted me to be an intellectual partner, something that caught me off guard. Over time, the emotional distance between us began to shrink. He was much more human than I remembered. When we were alone in the office or at meetings, he would ask about my life, my family, my ambitions. He seemed genuinely interested, and I found myself, more than once, responding with a level of honesty I hadn't shown anyone in years. One night, while we were organizing papers for a project, I casually mentioned a problem I was facing. My house's boiler had broken, and with no money, I was getting by with cold showers and pots of hot water. I didn't want help. I only mentioned it as an excuse for my exhausted appearance. He didn't comment, but something in his expression changed. The next morning, I received a call from my landlord. He informed me that an anonymous benefactor had paid for the complete replacement of the boiler and even some extra repairs around the house. I was stunned, but I knew exactly who was behind it. When I confronted Leonardo at the office, he just shrugged. "You should never have to choose between basic comfort and dignity," he said. I didn't know how to respond. He wasn't trying to make me feel ashamed or indebted, but his generosity, which I didn't think I deserved, left me speechless. When I finally managed to whisper a "thank you," he gave a slight smile. "You did much more for me back then, Maya. If it weren't for the medicine you bought for my grandfather, I don't even know if I would have finished college. You thought I was with you only out of necessity, but the truth is, I was deeply grateful. I still am. No matter what happened between us, I'll never forget that." The sincerity in his words hit me like an unexpected blow. I knew I had hurt Leonardo when I disappeared, but I never thought he held any gratitude toward me. For a moment, the silence between us wasn't uncomfortable, but full of something unspoken, something beginning to grow between us again. But as always, Camila didn't take long to appear. During an event where Leonardo took me as his assistant, I overheard whispered comments about my appearance and how I didn't belong in that environment. Camila, with her perfect smile and calculated charm, made a point of completely ignoring me, except when she wanted to show off her superiority. However, Leonardo's reaction surprised me. He, who always seemed unshakable, suddenly intervened during a conversation where the whispers became obvious. His voice was firm and clear when he said, "Enough of this. Maya is beautiful, both inside and out. Unlike many here, she doesn't need masks or manipulations to be noticed. The room fell silent. Camila's gaze hardened, but Leonardo completely ignored her, turning back to me. For a moment, I felt a wave of emotion so strong I could barely process it. He didn't have to do that. He didn't have to defend me, but he did. And at that moment, I realized the walls I had built around my heart were beginning to crumble. In the weeks that followed, we spent more and more time together. He insisted I participate more actively in projects, and despite the initial tension, I started feeling comfortable around him again. Little by little, the small gestures, a coffee left on my desk, a ride home after a long day, a comment on how well I did something, began to mean more than I was ready to admit. One night, as we finished a project, he looked at me and said, "Maya, why did you never ask for help? You always seem to carry the world on your shoulders, but never let anyone help." "Maybe because I learned to rely only on myself," I replied with a sad smile. He shook his head, his gaze intense. "Maybe it's time to change that." I didn't know what to say, but for the first time in years, I felt that maybe, just maybe, I was ready to try. The idea of letting someone into my life again, especially him, didn't seem so impossible anymore. And even though everything seemed to be heading towards something new and unexpected, I knew that our story was far from over. I never imagined that being this close to Leonardo again would awaken such intense feelings. Every moment by his side was a painful reminder that something had changed. He was no longer the boy from college, and I was no longer the girl who had left him behind. Yet, something inside me insisted on reigniting that flame. The days spent with him became a confusing mix of comfort and torment. We were closer than ever, working side by side, sharing silences that spoke louder than words. Leonardo looked at me differently now. It was a look filled with memories, curiosity, and something I couldn't quite identify, but that made me feel alive again. But then there was Camila, always perfect, always present. And I couldn't, under any circumstances, cross that line. It wasn't right. He had a life with her, a planned future, and I was just a shadow of the past. Even so, his small gestures were hard to ignore. He brought me hot coffee on cold days, reached out to help me with papers, and sometimes left discreet notes with little inside jokes. Nothing inappropriate, but just enough to make my heart race. I started noticing that he was struggling with something too. The way his gaze lingered on me when he thought I wasn't looking, the silence that fell over him whenever Camila suddenly came up in our conversations. As if something held him back, but at the same time, something pushed him closer to me. I tried to keep my distance, tried to remind myself that this couldn't happen. But my heart wouldn't cooperate. It was on a rainy night that everything fell apart. We were stuck at the office because of a storm. Everyone else had already left, except the two of us. The sound of rain beating against the windows filled the silence between us. Leonardo was sitting on the meeting room couch, his head in his hands. I sat far away, trying to focus on the report I needed to review, but I couldn't take my eyes off him. "Are you okay?" I asked, barely above a whisper. He slowly lifted his head and looked at me. His eyes were tired, but there was something more. A deep sadness. "Sometimes I wonder if I'm living the life I really want to live," he said, his voice low, almost to himself.
I didn't know what to say.
I just watched him, feeling my chest tighten. "Camila and I, things aren't what they seem," he continued, averting his gaze. "It's like we're trapped in an image we created and can't escape." I don't feel the way I used to." He paused, taking a deep breath. "But with you, Maya, it's different. It always was." My heart nearly stopped. This couldn't be happening. I couldn't let it. "Leonardo, you can't say that. You have someone."
And
My voice faltered. He slowly stood up, walking toward me. He stopped just inches away, and I could feel the heat of his presence. I know, and I fought against it. Tried to ignore it, pretend it was just nostalgia. But it's not. "Maya, I can't deny it anymore. Please don't do this," I whispered, feeling tears sting my eyes. "This will only hurt us." He shook his head.
"No."
"What's hurting us is pretending. I realized I've spent years stuck in something that doesn't fulfill me. And you make me feel alive again. I don't want to live a lie anymore." My breathing grew heavier, and before I could say anything, he took a step back, as if to catch his breath. "The day you disappeared, it felt like a part of me left with you. I hated you for it, but now I understand. You had to leave, and I had to grow. But now that you're here, I won't let you slip away again." He nervously ran a hand through his hair. I broke up with Camila. The words came out as a whisper, but they hit me so hard my whole body froze.
What?
My voice was barely audible. I ended things with her.
Today.
Because I can't keep living like this. I can't keep pretending my heart is somewhere it's not. It's always been with you, Maya. I didn't know what to feel. Part of me wanted to run, escape that moment that was changing everything. But another part, the part that had always loved him, wanted to stay. Leonardo stepped closer, his voice low but steady. I don't expect you to forgive me for everything. I don't expect you to trust me again right away. But I need you to know that all I want now is to be with you. Not out of obligation, not out of debt, but because I love you. Tears silently rolled down my cheeks. Everything I had repressed, all the love I had hidden for so long, came crashing down. He slowly raised his hand, hesitant, and gently touched my face. You're beautiful, Maya. On the outside, yes, but what holds me to you is who you are inside. You're strong, brave, genuine. And none of that compares to appearances or status. You are everything I need. I closed my eyes, feeling the warmth of his hand. For the first time in a long while, I allowed myself to feel. I allowed myself to believe. When I opened my eyes, I saw the sincerity in his. No doubt, no hesitation. And then, without words, I simply leaned in. It was a soft kiss at first, as if we were both afraid of breaking something fragile. But soon the tension dissolved, and we gave in to the moment. A kiss full of everything that had been repressed, everything that had been left unsaid. When we finally pulled away, he rested his forehead against mine and whispered, I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. And for the first time in years, I believed him.